Hey guys, tonight we're stepping way outside our comfort zone, and maybe out of our minds a little, to explore a world that, honestly, is probably the most stressful place you could ever imagine being. We're going to put you right into the very worn-out, calloused sandals of a Roman gladiator. Now, you've seen the movies, you've heard the stories, but trust me, you probably wouldn't last a single day. You're far too comfortable on that couch. I bet you're already half asleep just thinking about it. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, let me know what your location and local time are in the comments. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your journey, and I'm afraid that's not a pleasant word here, doesn't begin with a hero's welcome or a brave vow of service. It begins with the cold shock of capture. Maybe you were a soldier on the wrong side of a Roman legion's triumphant march. Maybe you were a peasant in a conquered village, or even a runaway slave unlucky enough to be caught. One moment you're trying to hide in a patch of trees. The next, a legionary's heavy hand is on your shoulder. You're not a person anymore. Not really. You're property. A valuable, strong piece of meat to be sold to the highest bidder. The thought of this is dizzying, isn't it? The air suddenly feels thick, and the simple chirping of crickets outside your window seems to mock the silence in your mind. You're immediately shackled. A cold, chafing iron bracelet around your wrist. You're herded onto a dusty road, part of a long, miserable line of captives. The sun is merciless. It beats down on your head, and the dust from the road cakes in your throat and stings your eyes. You trudge forward, day after day, for what feels like an eternity. Each step is a small victory, a small act of defiance against the endless horizon. At night, you're crammed into a small makeshift cage with others. Their snores and shifting bodies making sleep an impossible luxury. You're probably not even thinking about gladiators yet. That's a future you can't even fathom. Right now, you're just trying to find a comfortable patch of ground and not get kicked by the guards. You're trying to just exist. You find yourself watching the guards, not out of hate, but out of a morbid curiosity. What makes them so different from you? Their lives seem so simple, so structured. You'd give anything for a simple life right now. This is the path many would-be gladiators took. The vast majority of them weren't volunteers or adrenaline-seeking adventurers. They were prisoners of war or slaves. In fact, a crucial aspect of Roman military success was the sheer number of captives they took, a constant supply of new bodies for labor, for sale, and for the arena. You can't help but notice the man next to you. He speaks a different language, a guttural sound you've never heard before. But the look in his eyes is universal. It's a mix of fear and something else, a flicker of defiance. You wonder if he was a warrior in his own land, a free man with a family. You are two pieces of a massive, unstoppable machine being transported for the amusement of a world you don't yet know. The journey continues for weeks, maybe months. You travel from the dark, cold forests of Germania or the sun-bleached hills of Britannia across long, brutal roads. You might even travel by sea, crammed into a rocking ship, the salty spray a cold reminder of your chains. You feel a strange kind of exhaustion that settles deep in your bones, a weariness that's more than just physical. It's the exhaustion of having your freedom ripped away from you. This is where your new life truly begins, not in the arena, but on this road, as your old self slowly fades away. And while the historical records are sparse on the exact details of these journeys, historians still argue whether the gladiatorial industry was a prime motivator for Roman conquest in certain regions, or merely a byproduct of a much larger, more complex military machine. It's a detail that doesn't matter to you right now, though. You're just trying to stay conscious. You probably haven't thought about the food. It's not what you'd expect. You're not eating juicy roasted meats. Instead, you are given a gruel of barley and beans. It's bland, almost flavorless, but it's enough to keep you alive and moving. There's a certain grim irony to this. You are being fattened up, not for the slaughter, but for the training, to be sold at a better price. The guards, of course, feast on better fare, the smell of it a constant, torturous presence on the wind. One quirky tidbit about this stage of your journey is that some slave traders would go to great lengths to make their human cargo look as healthy as possible before a sale. They might have you washed and oiled, given a better meal, or even given some cheap decorative jewelry to make you appear more valuable. A temporary, fake dignity before the true indignities began. This is the last fleeting kindness you'll receive for a very long time, and it's not even for your benefit. As you near a city, you can sense a change in the air. The roads become more populated, and the landscape is no longer desolate. You see the massive stone aqueducts stretching across the hills, a testament to the engineering power of the people who now own you. You hear the distant sound of a bustling city, a low hum that vibrates through the ground. It is an alien sound, a sound of life and power that is completely divorced from your own reality. And then you see it, your destination, a large, formidable stone building surrounded by high walls. The air is thick with the smell of sweat, fear, and something else, the metallic tang of blood. You've arrived at the Ludus, the gladiator school. You have no name anymore, no past. All that matters now is your future. And that future, you can already feel it, is going to be brutal. The heavy wooden gates of the Ludus swing shut behind you with a deafening thud, a sound that echoes not just through the courtyard, but through your very soul. You're in a different world now, a world of dirt, sweat, and the sharp, metallic smell of something you don't want to think about. You're no longer just a captive on a road. You're now a resident of a gladiator school, and your life has been reduced to a single, terrifying purpose. This new home is nothing like the grand, marbled villas you might have heard about. Instead, you're standing in a rectangular courtyard surrounded by high walls and stone barracks. In the center, you see a small, empty arena, the Ludus's training ground, with thick wooden posts sticking out of the dirt, scarred and splintered from countless blows. This is where you will spend the rest of your days, or however many of them you have left. A man approaches you, his stride confident and his eyes cold. He is your lanista, the owner and head trainer of this school. He looks you up and down, sizing you up like a butcher sizing up a cut of meat. His gaze is detached, professional. He's not interested in your story or your past. He's only interested in your potential value as a fighter. He shouts an order in Latin, a language you only vaguely understand, but the meaning is clear. Strip down. Your flimsy, tattered clothes are taken from you, leaving you completely exposed. It's not just a physical act. It's a final, humiliating shedding of your old identity. You are no longer your name, your village, or your history. You are a body to be trained, and your worth is measured only by the strength of your muscles and the speed of your reflexes. As you stand there, your heart pounding in your chest, you start to notice the other men. Some are like you, new arrivals with wide, terrified eyes. But others are veterans. They're standing in the shadows, their bodies a testament to the life you're about to lead. Their scars are like a roadmap of their careers, deep, jagged lines across their arms and chests. They don't look at you with sympathy or curiosity. They look at you with the same detached, cold gaze as the lanista, a look that says, one more mouth to feed, one more opponent to face. They are gladiators. Their muscles are thick and corded, their skin a deep tan from the relentless sun. One of them holds a small bowl, and a quirky little tidbit of history pops into your head. They are drinking a concoction of ashes which they believed would strengthen their bones. The science behind it is murky, but the practice was widespread, and you feel a strange sense of unease watching it. It's a glimpse into the strange and brutal rituals of your new life. You're given a simple tunic, a pair of sandals, and your first instruction: get in line. The rules are laid out in no uncertain terms. Disobedience is met with a whip. Escaping is met with death. The social structure is rigid, a stark contrast to any life you've ever known. At the top is the lanista and his doctores, veteran gladiators who have earned the right to train others. Below them are the different ranks of gladiators, from the new recruits like you, novitius, to the experienced fighters who have won many battles and earned a name for themselves. And at the very bottom, beneath the feet of all of them, is you. You are nothing. Your name, if you're even allowed to keep it, holds no weight. You are a mere commodity, an investment that may or may not pay off. This new reality, the ludus, was a massive business. Gladiatorial schools were located throughout the Roman Empire, and they operated like private military contractors. They would train fighters and then lease them out to wealthy citizens or the state for public games. Historians still argue whether the gladiators themselves were seen as respected athletes or merely as entertainment for the masses. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle, a strange combination of celebrity and chattel. The most famous gladiators, like Spartacus, became legends. But for every Spartacus, there were thousands of forgotten souls who died anonymously in the dirt. This is the duality you're now a part of. A tiny, insignificant cog in a gigantic machine of entertainment and death. The physical space of the ludus itself is fascinating in a morbid way. The training arena, the living quarters, small cells crammed with men, the armory where the weapons are kept, and the small infirmary, all of it is designed for efficiency and control, not comfort. The barracks are a far cry from any home you've ever known. They're little more than small, dark cells where you are locked in at night. There's no privacy, no personal space. You learn to sleep despite the endless sounds around you. The grunts and moans of others, the clinking of chains, the ever-present threat of violence. And for the first time, you are forced to confront the true weight of your new reality. You're not just a captive anymore. You are a gladiator in training, and your survival now depends on a new, horrifying set of skills. You have a long, terrifying road ahead of you. The sun barely peeks over the high walls of the ludus when a sharp crack of a whip shatters the morning stillness. It's not a wake-up call, but a command to move. You're jolted from a shallow, uncomfortable sleep and herded out into the training yard. The air is still cool, but your body is already starting to ache from the previous day's journey and the unforgiving stone floor of your cell. Your new reality, you quickly realize, is a relentless cycle of exhaustion and fear, with very little time for rest. This is where the true transformation from person to gladiator begins, in the dirt of the training ground. Your first lessons aren't in how to kill. They're in how to stand, how to move, and how to survive. The doctors, veteran gladiators who have earned the right to teach, are your instructors. They don't speak with patience or encouragement. They speak with a whip. They are hard men, with bodies forged from endless combat and eyes that have seen too much death. They teach you stance, a wide-legged, solid posture that gives you a low center of gravity. You learn to lunge and parry, the motions feeling clumsy and unnatural at first. The goal isn't grace, it's efficiency. Every move has a purpose. Every movement is designed to protect you while creating an opening to strike. This is not a sport. It's a science of survival. You are given a wooden sword, a rudis, to train with. It's heavy, far heavier than any real sword, designed to build strength and endurance. You are also given a large wicker-like shield and told to hit a wooden post, a palace, over and over again. You don't hit it gently. You hit it with all your might, and then you do it again. The impact sends a jarring shock up your arm, and your muscles scream in protest. A mainstream historical fact is that this was a core part of a gladiator's training. They would use these heavy wooden weapons against a post that was taller than a man, treating the inanimate object as a living opponent, practicing combinations and strikes until they became second nature. You're told to envision the post as your opponent, to find its weak points, and to strike with purpose again and again until your arms feel like lead. The training is broken down into different stations. One moment you're practicing with the rudis, the next you're running laps around the perimeter of the ludus under the hot sun. Another station might focus on footwork, teaching you to move side to side, forward and back, with a smooth, almost fluid motion. This is where a quirky tidbit comes in. For some gladiator types, like the retiarius who fought with a net and trident, footwork was far more important than brute strength. They were taught to be fast, agile, and evasive, relying on quick movements to avoid a heavy armored opponent. You're not just learning to be a fighter. You're being prepared to be a specific type of killing machine. And the training is far more complex and nuanced than you might have imagined. The days blend into one long, grueling exercise. The physical toll is immense. You have constant muscle cramps and blisters on your hands and feet. Your body is a symphony of aches and pains. The doctors show no mercy. If you falter, if you slow down, the whip comes down on your back. The pain is sharp, a constant reminder of the stakes. Your life is not your own, and your body is not yours to control. It belongs to the lanista, to the ludus, and eventually to the mob in the arena. You are being pushed to your physical limit, and then past it. You find yourself pushing through a pain you never thought you could endure. A part of you, the part that still remembers your old life, wants to give up. But the other part, the new part, the gladiator part, knows that giving up means a much more painful end. Historians still argue whether gladiator training was primarily focused on killing or on showmanship. Were they taught to be quick and efficient killers, or were they trained to put on a good show, to make a fight last longer for the entertainment of the crowd? The answer probably depended on the lanista and the needs of the particular games. But for you, the one doing the training, the distinction is meaningless. Every lunge, every parry, every strike is about one thing: survival. You are learning a language of violence, and the words are spoken with a wooden sword against a post. You are being conditioned, body and mind, to a world where violence is not an option, but a necessity. The training never stops, not really. Even when you're sleeping, you're dreaming of the drills, the shouting, the pain. Your old life is fading away, and this new, brutal existence is all that is left. After a day of relentless training, when every muscle in your body screams for relief, the only thing you can think about is food, not for pleasure, but for fuel. You're not just training your body, you're building it, brick by miserable brick, and that requires energy. You are herded into a common dining area, a large Spartan room with long wooden tables and benches. The air is thick with the smell of boiled grains, and your stomach, a hollow pit of exhaustion, churns with a desperate hunger. You might be imagining a feast, a giant roasted boar, succulent fruits, rich wines, the kind of opulent Roman dining you've read about in history books. But you're not a Roman senator. You're a gladiator, and your diet is a shocking reality check. What's placed in front of you is a thick porridge, a steaming, unappealing bowl of barley, beans, and lentils. This is your main meal, your source of energy, your lifeblood. You eat it without complaint, shoveling it into your mouth with a simple wooden spoon. It's a far cry from the rich and varied diet of the Roman elite. You don't get meat, not really. Maybe a scrap of fatty pork on a special occasion, but your diet is overwhelmingly vegetarian. You're what the Romans called a hordeari, which roughly translates to barley eaters. It's a name that is both accurate and slightly derogatory, a reminder that you are not a man of wealth or status, but a human commodity fueled by the cheapest possible ingredients. And as you chew on the simple grains, you're not just eating, you're participating in a very specific, carefully designed nutritional plan. This vegetarian diet, heavy on carbs and surprisingly high in fat, wasn't just a cost-saving measure. It was a conscious choice made by the lanista and the gladiators' doctors. The diet was designed to build a thick layer of subcutaneous fat, a sort of natural protective armor. This fat layer, it was believed, would protect your vital organs and blood vessels from shallow cuts and scrapes, allowing you to sustain wounds that might otherwise be fatal. It would also, in a grim way, make your wounds look more spectacular to the crowd. A deep cut would look terrifying and bleed profusely without immediately hitting a critical artery. It's a macabre detail to think about, isn't it? That your body is being prepared not just to fight, but to bleed for entertainment in a way that is both terrifying and, somehow, survivable. After the barley porridge, you are given a unique, quirky tidbit of your diet. You're given a drink, a pungent, gritty concoction made from the ashes of plants, which you have to mix with water. This was believed to be a kind of ancient energy drink, rich in calcium to strengthen your bones. It tastes terrible, like dirt and bitterness, but you drink it down without a second thought. You know that every part of this regimen, no matter how unappetizing, is designed to keep you alive and fighting. It's a grim ritual, a daily reminder that your body is a weapon, and like any weapon, it must be carefully maintained. You are not a person with cravings or preferences. You are a machine that needs fuel and maintenance. Historians still argue whether this diet was truly effective in making gladiators more resilient, or if it was simply the cheapest way to sustain a large number of fighters. Was the fat layer a strategic advantage or an accidental byproduct of a low-cost food source? It's a debate that highlights the constant tension between a gladiator's life as a highly trained athlete and a human resource. For you, the debate is irrelevant. All you know is the burning hunger after a long day of training and the bland, starchy food that fills it. You eat until your stomach is full, and you feel the heavy, comforting weight of the porridge in your gut. You need this energy. You need these calories, because tomorrow the training will start again, and you will need every ounce of strength you can muster. The food is a simple, brutal contract. I give you sustenance, and in return, you give me your body. With the barley porridge settling heavy in your stomach, you retreat back to your cell, a small, cramped space you share with several other men. The conversation is sparse, mostly quiet grunts and the shuffling of bodies, but a new kind of tension hangs in the air. It's not the explicit threat of the training field, but a more subtle, social pressure. You are at the bottom of the food chain here, and you are constantly aware of it. The ludus isn't just a place of training. It's a closed society with its own rigid, unforgiving hierarchy. And you, a novitiate, a newcomer, are at the very bottom. The men in the cells next to yours aren't all like you. Some are veterans, their bodies already a mosaic of scars. They carry themselves with a certain grim confidence, a quiet understanding of the life they lead. They have names that carry weight among the other gladiators, and they are treated with a grudging respect, even by the lanista and the doctores. You've heard whispers of a few who are primus pelus, the top-ranked fighters in the school. They are the legends, the ones who have survived multiple fights and earned a fearsome reputation. You notice how they move, how they carry their bodies. A certain weary grace that comes from knowing how to survive. They are the apex predators of this small, violent world, and you are their prey in training. The social structure here is defined not by birth or wealth, but by skill and survival. The most successful gladiators, the ones who are on the verge of earning their freedom, might even be given their own private cells, a small luxury that speaks volumes about their value. You, on the other hand, are just a number, a body in a cell. The men who share your space are just as terrified as you, their eyes flickering with the same mix of fear and desperation. But there's no real camaraderie, not yet. It's a society of wary individuals, each one knowing that the man sleeping next to him could one day be his opponent. A mainstream historical fact is that this social structure was formalized within the ludus, with clear ranks and status based on a gladiator's win-loss record and number of fights survived. It was a way to manage and incentivize the fighters. As you lie on your hard mat, you can't help but notice the faint marks on some of the veteran gladiators. A quirky tidbit about the gladiators' social identity is that they were often branded, not like cattle, but with a specific brand or stigma that marked them as a member of a particular ludus. It was a permanent sign of their ownership and their profession, an unerasable mark of their new identity. This brand was not just a symbol of slavery, but also, for some, a symbol of pride and belonging. It was a visible sign that they were part of a brotherhood, a grim, deadly fraternity. It's a chilling thought, isn't it? That your body, the last thing that felt truly your own, is now marked with the property of another man. Historians still argue whether gladiators formed genuine bonds of camaraderie or if their relationships were always tainted by the knowledge that they might one day have to fight each other. Were they brothers in arms, or were they simply temporary allies in a brutal system? The truth is likely a mix of both. There would have been a shared understanding, a mutual respect for the struggle, and a quiet sense of community. But beneath the surface, there was always the unshakable knowledge that at the end of the day, they were rivals for survival. It's a heavy thought to take with you to sleep, a quiet, insidious fear that seeps into your bones and makes the hard mat feel even colder. The walls of your cells seem to close in on you, and the silence is not a comfort, but a deafening reminder of the life you've lost and the dangerous, uncertain one you've gained. Your new place in the world is not one of freedom or family, but of iron discipline, hierarchy, and a quiet, constant struggle to simply exist. Your position at the bottom of the Ludus hierarchy is now a known, chilling fact. But there's a different kind of hierarchy you're about to enter, one based entirely on steel, sand, and survival. One morning, you're pulled from the daily training drills and brought before the lanista and his doctors. They look you over with a practiced eye, not at your face, but at your body. They pinch your muscles, test your reflexes, and measure your height. It's an evaluation, a cold, calculated assessment of your physical attributes. You are a puzzle piece, and they are trying to figure out which slot you fit into. This is where your fate is sealed. You are about to be assigned your gladiator class, and it is not a choice you get to make. There are many different types of gladiators, and each one is a carefully crafted fighting machine, equipped with a specific set of weapons and armor. If you're a big, strong, and imposing figure, you might be classified as a murmillo. You'd be given a large rectangular shield, scutum, a short gladius sword, and a distinctive helmet with a fish-like crest. Your purpose would be to engage in direct, brutal combat, using your strength and shield to dominate your opponent. If you're a bit more agile, maybe a little faster on your feet, you might be deemed a secutor. Your helmet would be smooth and rounded with small eye holes to prevent a net from getting tangled on it. Your weapon would be a gladius, and your primary opponent would be the swift and evasive retiarius, a gladiator type known for his net and trident. The retiarius is the gladiator everyone finds a bit odd. He fights with almost no armor, save for a shoulder guard and arm guard, relying on a net to entangle his opponent and a trident to finish the fight. You'd be fast and clever, a fighter who uses strategy and evasion rather than brute force. There were other types too, like the hoplomachus, who fought with a spear and a small shield, mimicking the style of a Greek hoplite, and the thraex, who was equipped with a curved sword and a small square shield. A mainstream historical fact is that these gladiator types were often paired against each other in specific combinations, creating a kind of rock, paper, scissors dynamic that made the fights more unpredictable and entertaining for the crowd. For example, a heavy murmillo might be pitted against a faster, lighter thraex, a classic pairing of strength versus agility. You stand there, a pawn in a brutal game, as the lanista makes his decision. Your physique, your height, your natural quickness, all of it is being weighed and measured. A quirky tidbit about this process is that the choice of your helmet was incredibly important, often defining your style. The secutor's rounded helmet, for example, with its smooth surface, was a direct countermeasure to the retiarius's net, making it harder to ensnare them. It's a small detail, but it speaks to the high level of specialization and strategic thinking that went into the gladiator's trade. Every piece of equipment, every type of gladiator, was designed to create a specific kind of spectacle in the arena. Once the decision is made, you are sent to train with your designated weapons. The wooden sword you used before is replaced with a practice version of your assigned weapon, and your drills become focused on mastering your new style. You're now a murmillo in training, and your days are spent learning to wield the heavy scutum and the short gladius. Or maybe you're a retiarius, and you're now practicing throwing a weighted net and thrusting a wooden trident at the training post. This is your new identity, and it's a permanent one. You are no longer just a novitius. You are a myrmio, or a secutor, or a thraex. This name now defines your every waking moment. Historians still argue whether these specific gladiator pairings were always fixed, or if the lanista could mix and match fighters based on the needs of the games. Was it a rigid, unchangeable system, or was there more flexibility? The truth is that the gladiatorial games were a spectacle, and the crowd loved specific matchups. These traditional pairings likely ensured a certain level of drama and excitement, but a clever lanista might have been able to exploit a weakness by creating a novel pairing. But for you, the newly assigned gladiator, the only thing that matters is mastering your new weapon and your new style. Your life, after all, now depends on it. The weight of your new equipment feels both heavy and foreign, a constant physical reminder of your new identity. You spend your days swinging your wooden gladius or thrusting your practice trident, your muscles screaming with every repetition. You're becoming faster, stronger, and more lethal, but this progress comes at a steep, painful cost. Your body is no longer a temple. It's a construction site under constant brutal renovation. The training is a non-stop assault on your joints and muscles, and you quickly learn that pain is not a temporary visitor, but a permanent resident. A dull ache in your shoulder, a throbbing in your wrist, a sharp twinge in your knee. These are the new companions of your daily life. You're constantly covered in bruises, splinters from the training posts, and small cuts from the mock combat drills. This is the painful price of perfection. The worst part is that there's no real rest. You are expected to train through the pain, to push past your limits, because your opponent in the arena won't stop for your injuries. A mainstream historical fact is that every major ludus had its own doctor, or medicus. This wasn't out of compassion, but out of financial necessity. You are an investment, a valuable piece of property, and a good lanista would protect his assets. The medicus was a highly skilled professional, often a Greek slave, who was adept at treating the kinds of injuries that gladiators sustained. They could set broken bones, suture wounds, and perform amputations with a speed and efficiency that would shock you. But their methods, by modern standards, would be primitive and painful. When you finally go to the medicus, you're not given a gentle pat on the back and a prescription for pain relievers. Instead, you're given a bowl of strong wine to numb the pain, and the doctor gets to work. He might use a heated iron to cauterize a wound, or set a bone with a crude splint, and wrap it with linen. The pain is searing, but you are not allowed to cry out. A quirky tidbit about gladiator medicine is that they were sometimes treated with a poultice made from honey. Honey was a known antiseptic in the ancient world, and it was used to help heal wounds and prevent infection. You would lie there, feeling the sticky concoction on your skin, the pain a constant grinding pressure beneath it. The treatment is brutal, but you know it's necessary. You can't afford to be out of commission for long. A gladiator who can't train is a gladiator who might as well be dead. The psychological toll of living in a state of constant pain is immense. You learn to compartmentalize it, to push it to the back of your mind, but it's always there, a low hum beneath the surface of your consciousness. You see men with limps, with scarred faces, with missing fingers. These aren't just injuries. They are a history of survival. They are a constant walking reminder of what you will have to endure to stay alive. The men with the most scars are not just the most experienced. they are the most resilient, and you learn to respect them for it. A sense of grim solidarity forms among you, a shared understanding of the price you all pay for your survival. Historians still argue about the quality of the medical care gladiators received. Was it truly advanced for its time, or was it a rough and ready system designed only to get the fighters back in the ring? The evidence suggests a surprising level of skill. The doctors who treated gladiators were often experts in trauma care, a field they got plenty of practice in. They were innovators in their own way, but their methods were still a far cry from the pain-free, sterile world we know today. For you, the gladiator, the distinction is irrelevant. All you know is the cold bite of the wine and the white-hot pain of a wound being cauterized. Your body is a machine, and the medicus is a brutal mechanic, but he is also your best chance at survival. And as you lie there, a bandage wrapped tightly around a new injury, you understand that this is the real gladiator life, a constant battle, not just in the arena, but against your own body. You've learned to live with the physical pain, to push past the aches and the throbbing injuries that are a part of your daily life. But as you lie awake on your hard mat, staring into the oppressive darkness of your cell, you realize that the most brutal part of this life isn't the training, the hunger, or the wounds. It's the silence. It's the time when your mind is no longer occupied by drills and pain, and it's free to wander. That's when the psychological burden of your new life truly begins to weigh on you. You're alone with your thoughts, and they are not pleasant company. You think about your past, your family, the life you had before the chains, and you think about your future, which is a big, terrifying question mark. There's a constant low-grade hum of fear that never leaves you. It's the fear of what's to come. You know that at some point, you will be sent into the arena. You will have to fight, and you will have to kill or be killed. The thought of this is a cold dread that sits in your stomach, heavy and unmoving. You might find a strange kind of camaraderie with the men around you, a shared understanding of this fear. There's a quiet respect, a nod of the head, a look in the eyes that says, "I know what you're going through." You are all in the same boat, a boat that is slowly, inevitably, heading toward the rocks. It's a bitter kind of fellowship, but it's all you have. The ultimate mainstream historical fact that defines this psychological state is the gladiator's oath, the Sacramentum Gladiatorium. It was a terrifying vow, a promise to be burned, to be bound, to be beaten, and to be killed by the sword. It was a formal acceptance of their fate, a ritual that stripped them of their autonomy and transformed them into a public commodity. This oath wasn't just a legal formality, it was a psychological tool, a way to prepare the gladiators for their role. You probably don't recite this oath every day, but the sentiment of it, the absolute surrender of your body and your will, is a constant, unspoken presence in your mind. In these quiet moments, you might find yourself dwelling on a quirky tidbit of your experience here. You find yourself having gladiator dreams, not of fighting in the arena, but of the mundane. You dream of the barley porridge, the smell of the dust in the training yard, the rhythmic clang of the weapons. Your mind, in a strange act of self-preservation, is trying to normalize this new reality, to make the unbearable routine bearable. It's a fascinating and a little bit sad phenomenon. Your mind is trying to process a life that is so far removed from anything you've ever known that it can only do so in small, digestible, and ultimately meaningless bits. There is a sense of hope too, however small and fragile. Hope that you might win enough fights to earn your freedom, or at least survive long enough to become a doctor, to rise above the daily grind. But this hope is a dangerous thing. It's a flickering flame in a hurricane, and you know that to let it burn too brightly is to invite a different kind of pain, the pain of disappointment. The men around you who have been here the longest are the ones who seem to have extinguished that hope entirely. They are grim, focused, and utterly without illusion. You try to emulate them, to become as cold and detached as they are, but you still have dreams. You still have a tiny, stubborn spark of the man you used to be. Historians still argue about the true psychological state of gladiators. Were they truly broken, dehumanized slaves, or did they find a strange kind of pride and professionalism in their work? Did they see themselves as athletes, as artists of combat, or as simply men condemned to die for another's entertainment? The answer is likely as varied as the men themselves. Some undoubtedly lost their minds to the fear and brutality, while others found a grim purpose in their fight for survival. For you, the gladiator, the distinction doesn't matter. All you know is the constant grinding pressure in your mind, the knowledge that at any moment your entire world could come crashing down and there's absolutely nothing you can do to stop it. The days have been a blur of sweat, pain, and the endless clang of wooden swords. But one day, the routine breaks. A man you don't recognize, dressed in fine clothes, comes to the ludus. He is the one sponsoring the games, and he has come to inspect his new fighters, the men who will die for his amusement. He points at you, at a few others, and his finger is a cold, indifferent judgment. Your stomach twists into a knot, and you feel the fear from the last 8 sections coalesce into a single terrifying truth. You have been chosen. Your time has come. You will fight tomorrow. That night is different. The usual barley porridge is replaced by a feast, the Cena Libera. The name itself is a cruel joke, free dinner. But it's not really free, and you are not really a man. You are led out into a public space, maybe a square or a courtyard, where a table is set with real food, meats, breads, wine. You've never seen so much food in one place. And the crowd is there. They stand behind a rope, watching you eat. Their faces are a mix of excitement, curiosity, and morbid fascination. They are here to see the men who will die tomorrow. This is a mainstream historical fact. The Cena Libera was a public event, a final chance for the spectators to see the gladiators up close before the spectacle began. It was a bizarre, surreal experience, a banquet of the damned. You sit there, surrounded by the other men who will fight tomorrow. Some eat ravenously, trying to forget their fate in the simple pleasure of a good meal. Others pick at their food, their faces pale and their eyes distant. You might eat a little or a lot. It doesn't matter. The food is a distraction, a momentary pleasure before the long, silent night. You can feel the weight of 1,000 eyes on you, watching your every move. A quirky tidbit about this night is that some people would come to the Cena Libera not just to gawk, but to cheer on their favorites. They would shout words of encouragement or place bets on who they thought would win. For a moment, you are not a slave, not a commodity, but a celebrity. You are the star of tomorrow's show, and this is your final curtain call. You might even see some of the other, more famous gladiators from your school, men who have already fought and won. They stand apart, their faces hard, their silence a testament to what is to come. They are the professionals, the ones who have lived through this night before. You look at them and wonder if you will ever be like them. Will you survive long enough to have a second Sina Libera? The thought is both a terrifying dream and a quiet, desperate hope. The wine tastes like fear, and the meat tastes like blood, but you eat anyway. You need the energy. You need the strength. After the feast, you are led back to the ludus for your final preparations. The equipment you will use has been laid out, polished, and ready. You feel the weight of the gladius, the cold touch of the bronze helmet. It is no longer a training tool. It is a deadly weapon, and you are about to become a part of it. A deep, unsettling silence has settled over the ludus. The usual sounds of training and life are gone. All that's left is the quiet shuffling of feet and the soft clink of steel. Historians still argue whether the Sina Libera was an act of genuine, albeit misguided, humanity, or a final, humiliating spectacle designed to remind the gladiators of their status as public property. Was it a chance for the people to say goodbye, or was it simply a form of pre-show entertainment? For you, the gladiator, the distinction is meaningless. All you know is the strange, almost surreal feeling of eating a good meal while 1,000 people stare at you, their eyes filled with a terrifying mix of bloodlust and pity. You can't sleep, not really. You close your eyes, but your mind is a slideshow of images. The crowd, the weapons, the face of the man who will be your opponent. You can't run, you can't hide, and all you can do is wait for the sun to rise. The night, long and silent and filled with dread, finally gives way to a pale gray dawn. The air is cool, but a different kind of heat is already building inside you. You're given your equipment, the cool, heavy metal of your helmet, the polished bronze of your chest guard, the shield, and the sword. It's no longer a training weapon. It's real now. You feel the weight of it all, the cold, hard reality of your new profession. There are no words, no final instructions, just the quiet, efficient movements of the lanista and his men, checking and double-checking every piece of armor. They are not preparing you to live. They are preparing you to die well. You are led from the ludus in a long line, part of a solemn procession. You can hear the distant roar of a crowd, a low, powerful hum that grows louder with every step. You walk on cobblestone streets, the sounds of the city muffled by the sheer weight of the moment. You're not just a man walking to a fight. You are part of a spectacle, a theatrical opening act. This is the Pampa, a grand procession that would precede every gladiatorial event. A mainstream historical fact is that this wasn't just for gladiators. It was a massive, city-wide parade that included musicians, priests, public officials, and the gladiator lanista himself, all a part of a massive show of Roman power and wealth. You are a small, terrifyingly important piece of this massive parade. As you get closer, the roar becomes a deafening wave of sound. It washes over you, a physical force that makes your helmet feel even heavier. The sun is now a little higher in the sky, and you can see the massive, imposing structure of the arena. It's a stone behemoth, a colossal circle of noise and humanity. You can feel the vibration of thousands of people through your sandals, a constant, low-frequency hum. You are not walking to a fight anymore. You are walking into the belly of a beast. A quirky tidbit is that the procession was often led by the most popular and celebrated gladiators, the primus palus of the ludus. They were the stars of the show, and their presence would often whip the crowd into a frenzy. They are the men you see in front of you, their heads held high, their confidence a stark contrast to the churning fear in your gut. You finally reach the great archways, the Porta Triumphalis perhaps. You can feel a change in the air, a drop in temperature as you step out of the bright sun and into the cool, dark tunnel. It's a moment of respite, a brief, silent interlude before the chaos. The noise is still there, but it's a dull, muffled roar now. You can hear the sound of your own breathing, the soft rasp of your breath against the cool metal of your helmet. The air smells of dust, sweat, and something else. A primal, ancient smell of blood and fear. You try to take a deep breath, to steady yourself, but your chest feels tight. And then, you're out. You step out of the darkness and into the brilliant sunlight of the arena. The sheer size of the crowd is breathtaking, a kaleidoscope of faces and colors. You look up, and the world is a sea of people, their voices a single monstrous roar. You see the emperor, or a public official in his royal box, and you and the other gladiators raise your swords in a final chilling salute. Ave Imperator, morituri te salutant. Hail, Emperor, those who are about to die salute you. It's a phrase that has echoed through the centuries, a symbol of gladiator defiance and resignation. Historians still argue whether this famous gladiator salutation was a common occurrence or a rare dramatic gesture. Was it a routine part of the ceremony, or was it a specific grand salute reserved for special occasions? The answer probably lies somewhere in the middle, a phrase that was used to heighten the drama and make the gladiators' impending deaths all the more poignant for the crowd. For you, the gladiator, the distinction doesn't matter. You have said the words, and they hang in the air, a heavy, final pronouncement. You are no longer a man. You are a gladiator, and your fate is sealed. The crowd roars, and the games have begun. The sunlight feels different here. It's brighter, hotter, as it bounces off the polished marble and the sea of faces in the stands. The grand procession is over, and you find yourself standing in the center of the arena. The feeling of the fine yellow sand beneath your sandals, a stark, tactile reality. This isn't the packed dirt of the training yard. This is the consecrated ground of the ludus's ultimate purpose. You look around, and the world is no longer just a small courtyard. It's a vast, elliptical stage, and you are the main character in a play with a very predictable and very bloody ending. The first thing that hits you is the sheer scale of it all. You might be in the great Colosseum in Rome, or a smaller, equally magnificent amphitheater in a provincial city. Either way, the architecture is designed to overwhelm, to make the individual feel small and insignificant. A mainstream historical fact is that the Roman amphitheaters were engineering marvels capable of holding tens of thousands of spectators. The Colosseum alone could seat around 50,000 people. As you look up, you don't just see a crowd. You see an entire city, a microcosm of Roman society, all looking down at you. You can make out the different sections, the senators in the front rows, the wealthy merchants behind them, and then the teeming masses stretching all the way to the top. They are a single monstrous entity, and they are here to see you fight. The noise is a physical force. It's a constant, deafening roar, a mix of cheers, jeers, and the collective anticipation of 1,000 different people. It's impossible to pick out a single voice, a single word. It's a tidal wave of sound that threatens to wash away your very sense of self. You might try to tune it out, to find a quiet space in the storm, but it's everywhere. It vibrates through the ground, through your chest, and through the very air you breathe. It's an electric energy, a charge that makes your skin tingle with a horrifying combination of adrenaline and fear. You see your opponent across the way, his face obscured by a helmet, his body a mirror image of yours in its readiness. The silence before the fight is a moment of pure, terrifying focus. But even then, the sounds of the arena intrude. You can hear the trumpets, the flutes, the cymbals of the musicians who are here to punctuate the drama of the fight. A quirky tidbit about the arena experience is that the Romans took great care to make the crowd comfortable. During the hottest parts of the day, a massive awning, called the velarium, would be deployed to shade the spectators. They would also spray perfumed water over the crowd to cool them down and create a more pleasant atmosphere. For the gladiators on the sand, however, there was no such luxury. You are out in the open, the sun beating down on your helmet, the sweat already beginning to bead on your brow. A stark contrast between the comfort of the spectator and the brutal reality of the performer. You might feel a strange kind of calm in this moment, a quiet acceptance of your fate. Or you might feel a white-hot panic, a desperate desire to run, to scream, to do anything to get away from this. It doesn't matter what you feel. All that matters is what you do next. The moment is here. The fight is about to begin. The noise, the spectacle, the fear. It all culminates in this one single moment of profound stillness. Historians still argue whether the crowds at these events were truly bloodthirsty and cruel, or if they were simply thrill-seekers, enjoying a spectacle that was a normal part of their cultural experience. Was their demand for blood a sign of a depraved society, or simply a byproduct of a culture that had a very different relationship with death? The answer is probably a mix of both. For you, the gladiator, the distinction is irrelevant. All you know is the sea of faces, the roar of a million voices, and the heavy weight of the weapon in your hand. The rest of the world has faded away, and all that's left is you, your opponent, and the blood-soaked sand. The fanfare of trumpets, the blare of a final horn, and the moment you've been dreading, or maybe preparing for your entire life, has arrived. Your opponent, a dark figure across the sand, raises his sword. You raise yours. The roar of the crowd shifts, changes its character from a dull roar into a sharp, excited shriek of anticipation, and then, without warning, he lunges. The fight begins. The training, the pain, the fear, it all coalesces into a single, overwhelming instinct for survival. Your body, despite your mind's panic, moves on its own, a muscle memory honed by countless hours of practice against the Palus. You raise your shield, and the first clang of steel on bronze is a jarring, deafening sound that reverberates through your bones. The fight is not a chaotic brawl. It's a deadly dance, a choreographed routine of attack and defense. You parry his blows, a flurry of strikes aimed at your neck, your limbs. You feel the heavy, jarring impact on your shield, a constant punishing rhythm. You can hear his grunts of exertion, the soft shuffling of his feet in the sand. You are constantly moving, looking for an opening, a moment of weakness, a gap in his defenses. He is doing the same to you. The crowd noise, which was so loud a moment ago, has faded away. All that exists is you, him, and the sharp, deadly language of steel. A mainstream historical fact is that gladiators were highly skilled professionals. They weren't just brawlers. They were masters of their specific fighting styles. Their techniques were so advanced that they would be taught and practiced with the same precision as a modern martial artist. The fights were rarely a quick, messy affair. They were often a long, drawn-out performance of skill and endurance. You feel a sharp, burning pain in your arm. He's managed to get a cut on you. It's not deep, but it burns, a fiery reminder that this is not a game. You can feel the hot, sticky trickle of blood running down your arm, and you use the pain as a new source of energy. You attack, a feint and a lunge, trying to catch him off guard. He blocks it, a quick practiced motion with his shield. You can see the determination in his eyes through the small slits in his helmet. He is a man just like you, with the same training, the same fears, the same desire to survive. But only one of you can walk out of this arena alive. A quirky tidbit about gladiator combat is that a referee, or summarudis, was often present to keep the fight fair. He would carry a long staff and use it to break up overly aggressive attacks, or to signal a pause in the fight. He was there to ensure that the fight was a good show, not just a quick murder. The fight continues, a grueling test of strength, skill, and will. You are both exhausted, your movements becoming slower, more deliberate. The sun beats down on you, and the weight of your armor feels like a heavy lead blanket. Your muscles are screaming, your lungs are burning, and your mind is focused on one thing and one thing only: winning. You see an opening, a small gap in his defense. You lunge not with brute force, but with a trained precision. Your gladius connects, a sharp, terrible sound as it finds its mark. He stumbles, and you feel a strange mix of terror and triumph. You have him. You have won. Or have you? The crowd roars. The referee steps in. Your opponent is on one knee, his head bowed. He has been defeated. His fate is now in the hands of the crowd, or more specifically, the person who sponsored the games. This is where the grim truth of the gladiator's life truly sinks in. Your victory is not your own. Your survival is not your own. Your opponent's death is not yours to decide. Historians still argue about how often a fight to the death actually occurred. Was it a constant, brutal reality, or was it a more nuanced system where the sponsor of the games had a financial interest in keeping skilled fighters alive? The high cost of training a gladiator suggests that killing them on a whim would be bad business. The answer is likely that it varied, depending on the era, the city, and the sponsor. But for you, the gladiator, the distinction doesn't matter. You are standing over a defeated man, your heart pounding, your chest heaving, and your future is hanging by a thread. You have survived the fight, but you haven't survived the arena. Not yet. The roar of the crowd, which was so loud a moment ago, has now become a single, unified sound, a low, expectant hum. You stand over your defeated opponent, your weapon still in your hand, your chest heaving, the blood from your arm dripping onto the sand. He is on his knees, his head bowed, his weapon dropped. The fight is over, and his life is now a question mark hanging in the air, a question that will be answered by a single, terrifying gesture. You look to the emperor or the public official, the man who sponsored these games. He is the editor, and he holds the power of life and death in his hands. The tension is immense, a heavy, suffocating blanket that settles over the entire arena. The crowd, the thousands of people, are now gesturing, yelling, making their voices heard. They are not a single voice now, but a cacophony of opinions, some yelling for mercy, others for blood. A mainstream historical fact is that the final decision was often made by the editor of the games, a wealthy and powerful individual who paid for the spectacle. He would listen to the will of the crowd, a democratic gesture, but the ultimate choice was his. The financial investment in a gladiator, the desire for a good show, and the political pressure from the crowd all weighed into this single moment. You are not a man waiting for a judgment. You are a commodity waiting for a decision on whether your future is worth more than the entertainment of your death. The moment stretches on forever. You see the editor raise his hand. This is it. This is the end for one of you. And you suddenly remember a quirky tidbit you heard from a veteran gladiator. The iconic thumbs up or thumbs down gesture is a bit of a myth. The actual gesture for killing a defeated gladiator was a thumb pointed toward the throat or at the chest. A thumb tucked into a closed fist was often the sign for mercy, a gesture that symbolized sheathing the sword. The gesture for life wasn't a thumbs up. It was more subtle, a clenched fist. But for you, the gladiator, the gesture is clear. It's either a thumb pointed down, a sign of death, or a thumb tucked into a fist, a sign of mercy. The thumb points down. The crowd roars its approval, a single bloodthirsty voice. You feel a strange sense of detachment. The man who was your opponent, a person you fought with all your might, is now just a body to be discarded. You are given a swift, final order. You raise your gladius, and with a single, practiced, and merciful strike, you end his life. The crowd cheers, not for you, but for the act of death, for the final, brutal punctuation mark on a performance. You have won, but your victory is stained with the blood of a man who was just like you. A victory is a fleeting taste, a moment of triumph, but it is instantly soured by the reality of what you have done. You are led from the arena, but your fight isn't over. You're taken to the medicus, and he begins to work on your wounds, stitching the cut on your arm, bandaging your bruises. You are alive. You have survived. But the cost of that survival, the sight of your opponent's final moments, the cold reality of your actions, it will stay with you. You've earned a small token of respect from the other gladiators, a nod of the head from the veterans, but your victory is also a terrifying reminder of what you are capable of. Historians still argue about who truly held the power of life and death in the arena. Was it the whim of the crowd, the political calculation of the editor, or was it a more complex system? Was the crowd truly swayed by the gladiator's appeal, or was their voice just a formality? The answer is likely that it was a combination of all three, a complex web of social, political, and economic factors. But for you, the gladiator, the distinction doesn't matter. All you know is the feeling of a heavy, metal weight in your hand, the taste of fear in your mouth, and the knowledge that you have just killed a man to survive. You are not a hero. You are a killer. And you have survived to fight another day. You're back in the ludus, but something has changed. The men who share your cell and the other gladiators in the training yard now look at you differently. The fear in their eyes is still there, but it's mixed with a new kind of respect. You are no longer just a novitius. You are a survivor. You have killed a man, and in doing so, you have earned a place in a very small, very brutal fraternity. But with that victory comes a different kind of burden. You now carry the weight of a life you have taken, and the knowledge that your own life is still in constant jeopardy. Your victory is not a promise of safety, but a promise of more fighting. But with this new status comes a new kind of hope, a fragile, flickering possibility that you might one day walk out of here as a free man. A mainstream historical fact is that a gladiator could earn his freedom, a process known as manumission. This was a rare but possible outcome for a successful gladiator. The ultimate symbol of this freedom was the rudis, the very wooden sword you used in your training. A gladiator who was granted freedom was given a wooden sword as a symbolic token of his release from combat. This was not a quick or easy process. It often required a gladiator to win a certain number of fights, sometimes as many as 10 or more, and to gain the favor of the crowd and the editor who sponsored the games. The path to freedom is long and treacherous. It means more training, more fights, more blood. You are now a valuable asset, and the lanista will want to use you to make as much money as possible. You are no longer just a body to be trained. You are a prized fighter, a public commodity. The pressure is immense. The more you win, the higher the stakes become. You are no longer just fighting for your life. You are fighting for your freedom. You see the veteran gladiators, the ones who are close to earning their freedom, and you understand the quiet desperation in their eyes. They are so close, and yet they are still a single bad fight away from losing everything. There's a quirky tidbit about what happened to gladiators after they were freed. Some, like the famous Spartacus, would use their freedom to lead rebellions, but most would find a different kind of life. They might become a doctor, a trainer of new gladiators, or, if they were particularly famous and well-regarded, they might be hired as a bodyguard for a wealthy Roman citizen. Their combat skills and celebrity status made them an ideal choice for a job that required both strength and a reputation for violence. A gladiator's training, the very thing that made them a killer, was also the very thing that could save them from a life of poverty and anonymity. Historians still argue about how common manumission truly was. Was it a real, attainable goal for many gladiators, or was it a rare, almost mythical reward dangled in front of them to keep them fighting? The truth is likely that it varied greatly depending on the era and the specific ludus. Some lanistas might have been more willing to free their successful fighters, while others might have seen their most valuable gladiators as an endless source of income. But for you, the gladiator, the distinction doesn't matter. The thought of the rudis, the symbol of your freedom, is a powerful motivator. It's the reason you push through the pain, the reason you endure the fear. It's the one thing that keeps you going, a small, stubborn flame of hope in a world of darkness. You are not fighting for a life of comfort. You are fighting for a life of choice. And that choice, you've learned, is the greatest luxury of all. Your career as a gladiator, whether it lasts for a single terrifying fight or for many years of bloody victories, eventually comes to an end. For some, it's a quick, sharp end on the blood-soaked sand of the arena, a moment of profound finality. Their body is dragged away by a slave dressed as Charon, the mythological ferryman of the dead, a small, grim piece of theater for the cheering crowd. The sand is raked over, and they are forgotten, their story a single brief note in the history of a grand spectacle. For others, it's a long, arduous journey toward freedom, a life after the arena that is still marked by the scars and memories of their past. But even for them, the end is quiet, a profound contrast to the thunderous roar of their glory days. Your legacy, whether you are famous or anonymous, is a complicated one. You are a killer, a slave, but also an athlete, an artist of combat. Your name, your life, is largely forgotten, swallowed up by the immense tide of time. A mainstream historical fact is that the vast majority of gladiators, even the ones who became famous in their day, are little more than a name on an inscription, a piece of a tombstone, or a small mention in a letter from a Roman citizen. They were celebrities for a time, a fleeting moment of public adoration, but their stories were rarely preserved for posterity. They were a part of the Roman spectacle, not its history. Their legacy is not in grand libraries, but in the small, quiet details of their lives and deaths. You might have earned your freedom, and now you spend your days as a doctor, teaching the terrified newcomers the very same lessons that you learned. You walk the same familiar courtyard, you see the same fear in their eyes, and you feel a strange mix of pride and sadness. Your old life is now a shadow, and your new life is a quiet reminder of what you have survived. Or maybe you've been hired as a bodyguard for a wealthy merchant, a quirky tidbit about gladiator life after the arena. Your reputation for violence and your sheer physical presence make you a valuable asset, a living deterrent against would-be thieves and rivals. You walk the streets of Rome, a free man, but you can never truly escape your past. The scars on your body are a constant reminder of who you were, and the quiet respect you get from people is a constant reminder of what you did. Historians still argue about the true legacy of gladiators. Were they heroes of the people, a symbol of human resilience in the face of tyranny, or were they simply a footnote in a larger, more complex history of Roman entertainment? Was their life a celebration of skill, or was it a dehumanizing spectacle? The answer is likely both. They were heroes to some, a morbid curiosity to others. Their legacy is not in their victories or their defeats, but in the very fact of their existence, in their quiet rebellion against a system that sought to strip them of their humanity. You may be gone, your story forgotten, but your struggle is a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. Now, as the long journey comes to an end and the final echoes of the arena fade away, you can finally feel your mind start to rest. The heavy weight of the armor, the feel of the sand, the smell of the blood, let it all drift away from you. A distant, hazy memory. The tension in your shoulders can finally release, and the thoughts that have been racing through your mind can slow to a soft, gentle crawl. The story is over. The pain has faded, and all that is left is the quiet. Feel yourself getting heavier, sinking deeper into the soft comfort of your bed. The ancient world is now a peaceful, distant echo, a whisper on the wind. Let the images fade out, like a slow sunset over the Roman hills. Your mind is quiet now. The battle is done, and you are finally at peace. Just let go and drift away into a deep, gentle sleep.